Уважаемые коллеги, я присоединяюсь.
Dear colleagues, I'm also congratulating you to the 35th anniversary of the company Written. So the decision about the formation of this company was signed in the Soviet years. At that time, it was not possible to open such a company without an official decree. And this decree was signed on the 8th of May of 1980. The bank account was opened on the 1st of January 81. I joined the company on the 4th of November of 1980. So in this meaning, I am a legend, yes. Before this company, for 3 years, there was a department of the electronic medicine in the medical university in Taganrog, in the city of Taganrog. And with the support of the people working in this medical university, we were able to create our company. On the first slide, you can see who were the initial initiators. That is Tataev, who was the original director, and by the way, you can see the name of the first secretary of the city committee of the Communist Party, who supported this idea because without his support it would have been impossible to open our company. In my presentation, I'm going to tell you about the content of my future book. And what I'm going to present to you are just chapters and abstracts from this book. When we introduced scanner on the international market, on the Russian market, immediately we hear these voices from some people who say that they were the authors of this development. So that is why when going to I'm going to probably mention them in passing. And the first international school was created with the support of Irina Kasovskaya. In general, my book is going to be more like historical and technical. Because for me it was very interesting to research how scanner or the idea of scanner appeared at the very beginning and how the opinion changed. So what this device can do. And this is my main sort of idea or main trend of my book. And today I'm going to share with you only some chapters or some paragraphs, some abstracts from this book, which is not yet completed. So first of all, I'm going to tell you some historical tales. Here you can see a list of some names and last names. Probably you know some of the names very well, like Mr. Karasyov, the Academy of Rivenka. And this company is claiming that they have been the authors of this device. And now I'm going to tell you that there are some foreign companies which are claiming the same. Finzan, for example. Finzan as a device, as a company. If you search on the internet, you will discover that Miss James Colhurst claims to be an author. And there's a company, Fast Therapy, in Italy. But if you Google this information, you will find less about it. Because, for example, as to the English doctor, so we know that his company was opened in 2000. And in Italy, they have created this electro-neurofeedback. And there's another company, Physiogel, which was created not very far away from here in Germany. And they're using the word scanner on their site, although this is our trademark. And it belongs to us, to our company Rhythm. So that is why I'm amazed how do they dare to write about it on their website. So this is the claims from the European companies, but they're just claims. They're really fairy tales. In one of the first presentations done in 1997, which were made in the Netherlands, and Jan de Jonge was present there already. He has deceased, unfortunately. So that is why we can say that the year of 97 is the beginning of our international activity. Irina leaves the country and goes abroad. Jan at that time, he came to us to Taganrog, and because his town and our town, they were twin cities. And one of our people went to the School of Homeopathy to London. There he got acquainted with James Colhurst, who got very much interested in our device. And probably you know Yuri Garfinkin very well as well. He is a Chernobyl veteran and unfortunately died very early as well. So the scanner 0.35 was introduced. We, together with Mr. Rivenka, we didn't have a single English speaker with us. So that is why I and Mr. Rivenka were teaching James Colhurst to use this device. And then we changed also our device to 97.4. James Colhurst wanted to buy the license, as many people attempted to do, and they were attempted to pay a very low price. We were from the Soviet Union. We are not very much acquainted with the market economy. So this is how Finzan was created. And then James Colhurst is sort of claiming that he's kind of the author of this method. Guido Samenzi is a very active person. He was a representative of Cosmet International, and was buying our devices in selling our devices in Italy, and then he decided to make himself independent. And Physio-OK and you know, time passes, and it seems that the children of this original activists, so to say, decided to get involved in this business as well. And these people, although they're using these devices, but they don't know the basics. And whatever I read on their sites, this is all which we did. And the work which we did in 1997 or 98. It is a pity that James left. And he was personally acquainted with Princess Diana. That is, so he was a person of a very high level, and that's unfortunate that it all happened like that.
Everybody is speaking about scanner. There is always some link to scanner, but here there is none. So nobody knows, reading only their website, the American website, where they found this idea. It's just not there. And their device, Interix, is one of a series called Interix, of the family of Interix devices. It's very difficult to see where it stems from, but you can find some families. Thomson we do have, and Frost. But for me, they are well known, but they're not specialists in that field. And speaking about the founders of those companies, they are not widely known or renowned. So you'll have to take my word for it. Then, Avazia, a next device. Of course, we do have a founder, an inventor. I'll stick to their terms. Those are people who invented the Cosmos or Cosmos device and so on. I couldn't believe it. I read it and I couldn't believe it, but they claimed to be the founders of nearly everything we had already invented and put on the market. So you can see a lot on the internet. So they had some really we do have a town or a city called Sochi in Russia. You might have heard of it. There is still an institute, and I might not be right in all the details, but the foreign firm in the US I'm speaking about, they sort of went back to this Mira from Sochi, and then that's not all, of course. I'm just looking for the right place to continue. There's a biomodulator invented by Dr. Georgianin. That's what I found. So that's a person who claims being a genius. And he started this whole universal sky at whatever devices without any analogs in the world. So this was space. And I think this is a narrative from the States, and it's not the same thing like Europe, because European tried to keep more to the truth, but these U.S. companies, they are just liars. They are just thieves. They tried to copy us, but there were copycat secrets that were not really even near to the possibilities of the original devices from the US. This was then in the years 2000, 2001, after the millennium, and we tried just to find out via a Russian minister who was responsible for innovations in the government in the late 90s, and he asked us to sell sell licenses for our devices. Such a license was sold through Hong Kong, and afterwards we went to other markets. For instance, the U.S. The buyers, there were different presidents of different companies. So Thomson started, another one followed suit, and there was not really an active will to participate as trusted, because there was a woman from Kazakhstan who married to the States and tried to continue that sales project. And then there was a whole negotiation process about the license agreement. Okay, so there was a license agreement. So everything seemed to be well to the satisfaction of everybody. We agreed about the costs in this license agreement, and but then we sent a prototype to the US, and then they cut our prices. They wanted to give us 1/6 of that. So for 5 years, they don't have any legal rights to sell that product. I hope I won't offend anybody here, but Russians might not be very, very sticking to law-abiding, but the Americans, they are very law-abiding, but they are forgetting about laws as soon as they really see the possibility to get big money in. And from the point of view of Western psychology, let's call it like that, I was in Moscow, and I was responsible for the whole project. There was a Russian company dealing with international relations. We had $1,500 per device. This is a lot of money, but there is no state or interstate agreement between the Soviet Union and the US that we can really go to court with this our payment difficulties. But this was a whole team in Frost, Tom Thomson, then Tim Smith, and a certain Jerry Tennant. And this was a closely knit team, and they saw they can steal without being punished for it by law, and that's what they did afterwards. And they started to steal from each other after having stolen everything at the beginning from the Soviet Union. And they had so-called geniuses on the top of our company, their CEOs. Thomas then left. And that's how this device found its way to the American market as being sort of an American produce. So you see the difficulties we were in. We had a letter from Jerry Timoth, dating from 2001, but the whole process started earlier than 2001. And there he said the Russians are wonderful and they really did a lot for this company Space. And then he really said that it was a Russian invention, but then that stopped. He acknowledged it once, but never again. So I don't know. Well, they do produce such devices, but there's nothing new. They do, whatever we see on their site is our own publications, but only till the year 2001, and nothing more new or fresh. Now, we did not really work through a good license agreement. We were not prepared to be treated like that. We believe them, and from the legal point of view, and Mr. Lebedev was a lawyer, and he was the minister responsible for innovations, but still they did not really calculate correctly how much they would own us, how they would pay us, and so on and so forth. So it was not an enforceable contract or agreement in court. There were some words about this was invented, made by Korolyov, a Russian inventor, and he had got his compensation, something like that. And he got the Lenin Premium, like a Nobel Prize, but it was then a Lenin Prize in the Soviet Union. So they wrote about that on their home site, website, but then it all sort of got lost in universe and space. Now, there was one device, a type of a device that was manufactured in Hong Kong and found its way on Western markets, Australia, US, and so on. And Alexander Yuan from Hong Kong, he did no longer adhere to our agreement. He infringed it, but he found somebody else and started to cooperate with them, with Gertland, who was responsible for the innovations and sales in Europe. But those were devices made according to a license agreement. Now in Australia, we have Alan Thomas, our representative there, and that's the company Rhythm Australia. So this is our firm now, and he met Paul Kitley, and he saw that our original devices are so much better than the other ones that he decided to work only with us. And then again, there was, you'll read it once my book will be ready, or in my presentation. There was some description of newer devices. So first it was the Soviet period, then the Russian period, about 8 years. So the numbers might be different, but somebody is at the beginning because in reality manufacturing was done only and exclusively in Russia. But then different people in different countries tried to develop it in their own way. So the Russian period started from 2012, and I do have a co-author who knows about it and will help me to write that chapter of my book. And now coming to the end, I would like, I don't think I will be wrong to say, we have of course true stories but also fairy tales from Russia. Well, Rym, it was very dramatic situation. We'll have to feel it. In the year 1990, starting as a base year, one state is ending, Soviet Union, and there starts a new country, a new state, Russia. There are no longer social economic relations. We are turning and embracing capitalism. I don't speak from a moral point of view. I don't raise a waking finger. I just want to say that there was a huge rift in our Rema, as you see, during the period, as you see here, till 92. That's reality. That's not a narrative, but they say that they worked upon it. They worked together with a very famous inventor in Russia. You know them all. So theirs is a fairy tale out of imagination, pure imagination, and what I tell you is correct. They said they started the whole thing, and then in Russia we sort of reinvented it on the base of their Western analog, which is simply not true. Because we know that this was in one of the departments of the Ministry of Health in Russia. So that is the real story, Rema. I'll open the story, the insider story, how it all happened beginning from the 90s. And this medical team, the cooperative rhythm, is working very intensively, and we do have very good leaders. And they are not content how things are developing in the Western world outside Russia, neglecting all the Russian inventions. And that's where we started in Russia with this medical cooperation. Yuri goes to Moscow, there's a new know-how center, then he finds a lot of people and they really form a new company. And from then there were difficulties with people working there. Some of them left the country, left the company, and left the team. So that was the story of Rema. Then there's another corporation with its own insider story and inside story. I'll tell you about it. But that's how life is working. And young people, two young brothers, who were very good. One is already a vice governor, and the other one is also high in the political world. It's nobody written, but they say Garfinkel and Dervenko were their teachers, although they themselves don't speak about it. In Yekaterinburg, in another city in Russia. We had a Dr. Pobokin who went to Yekaterinburg and made the acquaintance. And those brothers were prepared, and they had a very good business touch, and they really marketed the whole thing. And the story is very simple. I'm just telling you facts without any morality. In the 90s, there was a documentation, and you'll hear about it later. This documentation was given to a company in Pyatigorsk, another town in Russia. Then in 91, through the Ministry of Health, this device is being manufactured in Pyatigorsk. And I was involved in it. And this was a construction bureau, and it was very difficult to market the whole thing in Russia. So we had an agreement, and Proton started to manufacture it, But again, this was going through this construction and design office, and this was the beginning of a very good development. But still, the rights were with this OKB. And that maybe some of you know the story, but the leader is a very difficult character, and people didn't stay long in his team. But those people who left him, they had those devices, they had their knowledge, and they started their own business, all of them with the same original device. Maybe he helped them a little bit afterwards, but they make really beautiful devices. Then is there another company, Akusken, and there they have another inventor. It's very interesting in hindsight to read who claimed to be the author of this device. But there is a real truth. And the core of this truth is the following. Outside Russia, there are different companies, Cosmet or Drinkum, they're starting to manufacture these devices, not being certified in those countries, by the way. And then Philip Barker, for instance, Julia Frost, and they get our devices, they are really bought officially in Russia, and then they find their way to the Western companies and to Western scientists. And there's the so-called Akuscanner, but it didn't satisfy the users, so they tried to change them for our original device. Scanner. I have another 5 minutes to go, if you allow. You know, his all contradictions. He said today he says one thing, and tomorrow he's negating everything. It's completely different again. So he has the truth is for him something that changes with time and with necessities, as he sees it. And those contradictions are not have been all over time. For instance, there's an article unknown practically to anybody from the year 1990. Written has developed a new device, but in reality there's nothing like that. And this article, Karashev, Kivenko, and Kiperev. And the later one, Kiperev, is forgotten by now. This is a name that's no longer a household name in our society. And then another article. Rivenka is writing there, such a device was developed by Karashev. In another article, it was somebody else. And the third article from the year 2000, there's still another inventor of the same. Riven Karashev had already developed that scan, and they brought it to OKB. But you see that it's just a punk, something working point by point. It's not a scanner. It's just working for different points on the skin, something completely different. And then, of course, the fairy teller, he could... he just invented things, invented authors, invented whatever he thought. There were no links. There was only a link to bringing you back to Karashev. But his fairy tales, not even the fairy tales, it's some contradictory stories. He says in the beginning of the 70s years, there were some Oriental medical wisdoms 1,000 years old, and they found their way into the Soviet Union, and on the base of those old sciences, they developed something. But in the Soviet Union, it began in 1957 and not 75. Then he says that this was the device who was sort of the origin of all other generations of devices that looked like Sinar or were Sinar. But this is all nonsense, and no more, no less. Then, of course, this is very interesting. You should read that side, this side of medical. Let medical, and let's see. I'm really coming to the end. There he has his patent of intellectual property and the electroassimilation from the year 82. But you won't see anything like that because you can't read it, because there was never such a certificate, not written, from the Taganrog University Radio Technology, and that was a certificate from the Soviet period. But and the authors, 5 of them, they all had their share, about 20% share, all of the 5 authors. Then 83 and 93, and then you have a lot of different devices with their names. But we would like to just find out where were they men. It's difficult to read. Originated, it's very difficult to read. And there you see, it's absolutely clear from those extracts, all the base devices, beginning with the third type 32, 33, AM35, they all were manufactured in Okabe-Ritten. And that was in 86. That was not only Karashev. That's not true. That was a team of people. And here it's not clear who knew more about it and who somehow decided found the real the big idea that could make this device to what it then became. So there are different years, there are different trials, tests, but it was not Karashev there and not Karashev alone there, but it was made all in the Okabe rhythm. Thank you for your attention.